Alright, I don't want to back up too far on the camera because I'd rather you be able to see my handwriting much more clearly than you can see the problem, especially since you have the problem in front of you because you're working or checking your answers on your own worksheet. The problem reads, if you can buy one pair of shoes for $28, how many can you buy with $112? Well, we've been working and dealing with unit rates and proportionalities and setting up ratios to be able to compare to determine if something is proportional. So in this problem, we're basically already under the impression that it's proportional. We just need to set up the ratios that help us to identify the missing piece within the proportion. So I need to use the information. I can buy one pair of shoes for $28. How many pairs of shoes can I buy with $112? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do $28 because I prefer to keep dollars in my numerator, divided by or over top of one pair of shoes. I'm just going to label that one pair since that still gives me a unit rate that I will be able to use to analyze the information at the end of the problem. And that ratio is equivalent to, well, now I want to know how many pairs can I buy with $112. I need to keep 112 in my numerator because my other ratio has dollars in the numerator over an unknown value of pairs of shoes. Now we simply cross multiply. And this is what many of you have been dying to do all year. So now you get to have your practice. Cross multiplying simply means that I am going to multiply across the equal sign. And that can be done anytime you have a proportional statement established. So I will multiply x times 28, which will give me 28x. And I will multiply 1 times 112. So 28x equals 112. And this will then tell me, when I divide by 28 on both sides, that x equals 4. And remember, we need to know what 4 is. We can't just say x equals 4 because that doesn't give us any indication of our answer for our problem. So how many can you buy with $112? Well, I can buy 4, but 4 of what? 4 pairs of shoes. And so I'm really going to be a little bit more picky about making sure that you are attaching units to everything you do now that we are in Unit 3 of this curriculum. So don't be surprised when you see points counted off for leaving some of this information blank, because x equals 4 only tells me that you knew how to solve the math. It doesn't tell me that you know what your answer of x equals 4 applies to. I am going to do number 2, not because it's hard, but because I have a slight concern that some of you are going to try to shortcut how you solve this and not end up setting it up correctly. So first I want to give you an image. And anytime you can draw an image, I highly encourage you to do so because, one, it gives me a visual to be able to help me understand how you were thinking of attacking the problem. And two, it gives you a visual to help you understand the relationship between the numbers that you're applying to a particular problem that you're solving. So this says that we have a rectangle that is 18 inches wide and 30 inches long. And since both of the terms are using the unit inches, I really need to make a distinction between which section is wide and which section is long, which is why I didn't use inches in my unit term, but rather I just distinguished them by wide or by long. I then drew a smaller triangle, and the new rectangle, and the new rectangle has a length of 20 inches. And so we can see pretty clearly here from the image that I have a relationship between these two rectangles I have a long side that is identified on both of my rectangles, and I have a wide side where I have only one given in my larger rectangle, but nothing given in my smaller. Well, that's the portion that we're looking for. And there's a tendency, I think, for some of you to say, well, I can just take 30 and subtract 20, and then I take whatever that difference is and subtract it from 18. That's not really a very beneficial way for you to attack the problem, because you're going to get the answer wrong. We have to set up a proportion because these two rectangles are proportionate to each other. So I would say 18 wide is to 30 long as x wide is to 20 long. So I'll get 30 times x. Let me get you on the screen. 30 times x gives me 30. X equals 360. And then we divide both sides by 30. And my value for x would equal 12. Well, again, we want to know what 12 represents. 12 was how many inches wide my smaller rectangle would be. Number 4, I'm not going to solve this problem for you, but I want to make sure that I set it up so you can be successful in solving it yourself. We're given a data table, and we're missing a piece of information, but we can still set up a proportion because my 3 is to my missing piece of information. Equivalent to, or proportional to, 6 seconds over 32 laps. And so now we could use that proportional statement to solve for x by cross-multiplying. And once we can do it for one side, we set up a separate proportion for the opposite term, 256, and that would allow us to fill in our top right-hand rectangle. Number 9. For number 9, we don't really need to set up a proportional relationship because we already have all 4 pieces of information. This question is simply asking who can run faster. And in order to determine who can run faster, all we really need to do is figure out what our unit rate is for each of our runners. And so we know that our appropriate unit rate for when given miles and hours is to do it in miles per hour. So I'm going to put my 20 miles for Sanjay over top of my 2.5 hours and determine what my individual unit rate is. So 20 divided by 2.5 gives me 8 miles per 1 hour. Well, now I need to be able to compare that to Rico, so I'm going to also find the unit rate for Rico. 18 miles per 3 hours. Well, 18 divided by 3 is going to be 6 miles per 1 hour. So who runs faster? Well, Sanjay can run 8 miles in 1 hour, and Rico can run 6 miles in 1 hour. So clearly, Sanjay, with her 8 miles per hour, can run quicker than Rico. Problem 10 is very similar to this, so I think by now you should be successful with all of your math homework for tonight. Enjoy!